Welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast, a show that will empower you to finally show up for yourself. It's time to stop faking fine.
Oh my gosh, Neil, welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast.
It is fantastic to be here, Miss Lewis. How are you?
I am weirdly nervous for this episode.
I think maybe you should be. Yes.
I mean,
an appropriate emotion.
Oh my gosh, just to set the stage here, we've dated for 3 years. We were engaged for 1. We've recently celebrated our first wedding anniversary, so happy anniversary to us. But for the purposes of this conversation, let's roll it way back. Let's start at the very beginning, Neil. Do you remember our first date? Well, of course you remember our first date, but can you share your thoughts? Let's bring everyone back to our very first date and your thoughts on that.
Well, I think you tell the story best of what all really went on that day. But I don't know. I mean, it's no secret. We met online, right? And we chatted a bunch, and, I just felt like there was something there. And I really wanted to meet you. Right. I really wanted to see if there was the connection. Right. And for me, all of that was really positive. I was in a place where, I was ready for it. I was just really ready. And we both showed up, thank God. And, here we are. It was a really great moment for me.
Should I share my version of the story?
I think you should, because I think it makes our story special. So keep going.
Oh my gosh. So we met, and I don't remember the exact dates, but on a Monday or Tuesday or something. And we decided that we were going to meet at a winery on Saturday that was, between where you live and where I lived at the time. And we were going to meet at 3:00 or something. And I think we had decided 3 because the winery closes at 5. So that gives you a hard stop, a definite exit strategy. You've got to,
boxed, right?
You've got to think through all the things. And as a woman, I definitely, and a woman, yes, but definitely with all of my weird nuances, I needed an exit strategy. I needed to make sure that I didn't feel trapped. So it's okay, let's meet at 3. So at the time, I'm teaching spin classes at 10:00 every single Saturday. So I do my spin class. I lollygag at the gym. I'm in no hurry to go anywhere. I saunter into a, athletic leisure wear store on my way home. I'm shopping, doing all the things. One of my very good friends calls to say, "Hey, what are you wearing on your date with Neil? What are you going to wear?" And I'm literally well, I'm still sweaty from the gym. I'm shopping for clothes I don't need. I'm really not sure. I don't know. Am I going? And she, who is speaks life into me and is Dana, basically get your act together. You're going on this date. Let's go. Right. And so I, get in my car and drive home and get ready to take a shower and actually get ready. But I'm still not into it. So I'm you want to know what? I'm classy. So I'm not going to just text you that I'm not coming. I'm going to call you and say, "Hey, Neil, I'm not coming on this date." So I called you, and you recall this conversation, right? I call you, you're almost at the winery, right?
Most of the way there, yes.
And what is your thoughts on that conversation? Can you share your version of that conversation?
I remember thinking, wow, she's got a really sweet voice, and I'm excited to meet her. And you fumbled around a little bit, and then you were like, "Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes." And
I called 100% to say, "Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not coming." But there was something about you answered the phone. I don't know. There was something about your voice and the way that you said hello and the way that you kind of navigated that conversation that you made me feel at ease. And so I was okay, I'm running really late. I'm running late, so I'm going to be coming in hot, but I'm going to, I'm headed home and I'll be there in, an hour or whatever time frame it was. And then do you remember when I pulled into the winery and you were sitting there?
oh, you came in hot. Like you were driving that enormous vehicle, your Denali or Suburban or whatever that thing was.
Oh, my Yukon XL. That was the best car on the planet.
You whipped it into this tiny little parking spot like a NASCAR driver. And then you got out and you were on the phone and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And you looked up and you saw me and you're like, everything stopped. And what happened?
Yeah,
right?
here we are. 4-ish years later.
A little more than that.
Yeah. So clearly the date went well and we are still here. Let's talk about like the next few years. In your opinion, how easy was it to date a widow, Neil?
I would say it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not for someone without conviction.
Yeah.
I think of the two of us, I've known for a long time what this was and really wanted to see it come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've had your struggles, right? Which has just been, processing through grief, trying to figure out, place in life and just navigating all of it. And I'm glad I held on, and I'm glad that I also tried to give you, space to go through all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we're really good because of it.
Oh, I definitely,
having lived through it.
We've lived through it to talk about it, right? I definitely am happy that we lived through it and that we're here today. But in your opinion, like, can you elaborate more on what you think the biggest challenges were that you didn't expect?
I think the biggest one is really quite simple. And looking back on it, it makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of being in the moment of it, it was really hard to struggle through. Was really some pretty consistent highs and lows.
Yeah.
Right. I think you went from high of experiencing big things in life, and whether that, was, in your business pursuits or even in our relationship. And then all of a sudden it would plummet. Right. And we'd be on just a negative streak for, hours, days, weeks, sometimes. In navigating through that was very challenging,
Yeah.
And it would be, a 10 out of 10, for a lot of days. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, we're back down to 1 and we're navigating 1, and that's where kind of that combination of holding on, but also giving space,
Mm-hmm.
I thought was so important, because I didn't know it quite this well at the time, but I just needed to give you that room to process, right? All
Mm-hmm.
that.
All the million thoughts in my head of, oh shoot, like this is getting serious. Do I want this to be serious? I haven't even really processed my grief properly, I don't think, at that point in time. What am I actually doing? And I would go from being with you and being like, okay, I'm all in, like this is amazing. And then not being with you and being with my own thoughts and being like, oh, like looking back, for the 3 years that we dated, I probably said to you 10 times, I want to take a break, or I want to, break up, or I, don't want to do this anymore. And you knew that I didn't mean that, but like, how did you know, and how did you navigate us through that?
I think it's interesting kind of having the hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
It's no mystery, and, listeners can know this. I come from a divorce situation.
Mm-hmm.
My ex-wife and I decided to split up, and we, kind of went our separate ways. And the thing that holds us together is our children.
Mm-hmm.
You unfortunately lost your first husband. And became the solo parent for all those years. And it's just a different place of being.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew who you were, like in your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, I want to say almost from the moment I met you. And obviously we've learned a ton in the years that we've been together. But kind of recognizing that difference, I knew I had to give you space
Mm-hmm.
in order to process. And I knew I wanted this, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to hang in.
And I'm so glad that you did. And I think that there was a huge shift in our relationship. And this is, I think, a really important point to that when you leaned in, I didn't even recognize that it was my own self-defense mechanism that I was like, abort, abort, abort. Someone is getting way too close. You're getting way too serious. And I don't know how to navigate that. Like, it had been 10 years of me solo parenting, or I guess 8 years when we started dating, like solo parenting 3 boys, having the weight of making sure that I was doing everything for them on my shoulders and that I was showing up as the person that I wanted to be. And as you would get really close, it's almost like there was a sphere around me. And if you pressed too close, it was like, like all these like bells and whistles would go off. And my defense mechanism was to retract and to just crawl in a hole and be by myself and say, hi, I can manage life on my own. Like, I'm not sure what you're bringing. Do I trust you? Do I not trust you? This is like it was scary. And so when I got scared, so to say, I literally would be like, you've got to go away. And at first you would fight me and you were like, but why? But this, but that. But like, there was a serious shift in our relationship when you, like, a light bulb went off in your mind when you recognized that it was my own defense mechanism, and you helped me even understand that. Because like, when I was in it, I didn't understand that. I was like, I just don't feel comfortable. Right?
Yeah. You actually helped me too, which is the amazing part about this. Cause we're humans. And when someone's embracing you and then pushing you away, like, insecurities can build. And then instead of just going away, you want to hold on even tighter. And that was backfiring. And I think there was just an epiphany, for both of us at the one point where you're like, I still love you, but like, I need you to go away.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave me that confidence to just be like, all right, I'm going to play this cool. All right, girl. I'm going to go spend my time, and invest in me, and just give you that space to kind of process and go through what you have to go through, and then come back together and be just better as a couple, right?
Yeah.
And I think getting to that level of dialogue, and you phrased it so well, which is like, you need to go crush you, I'm going to go crush me, and then we're going to come together and crush it as a team.
Yeah.
Like, that's so valuable, whether it's a widow situation, a divorce situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 22 and I'm, getting together with my first serious person.
Mm-hmm.
Way of thinking, like, just taking that mindset in a relationship.
Yeah.
I think is so super healthy and the right way to process.
Yeah. Each person should sharpen the other to be better. And we should each be on our own, complete and whole, and feel amazing and be doing amazing things. And then when you put 2 of those people together, then you really are powerful and can serve and help and grow other people. And for me, like, having had been solo for so many years, trying to navigate, and you used to say to me all the time, oh my gosh, you're so good at being independent Dana. Oh, here comes independent Dana. Independent Dana is going to, yada, yada, yada.
You make it sound like I was super snarky.
But I mean, in all honesty, you weren't wrong. I liked independent Dana, and I'm still independent Dana, but it's all the defense shield, part of it, not all, but part of it, a defense shield that it's like, you're getting too close. I need to make sure that I'm good on my own before I'm ready and willing to really embrace having you here all of the time. I recently met a widow who was in a relationship with someone that she really liked, and he broke up with her because he thought, well, you are so not over your husband and your dead husband. And this statement like hurts my heart. Like, what are your thoughts on that sentence and on her situation and the man that's in the relationship, right, with this woman that really loves two people? Like, I mean, I will love Jason until the day that I die. Like, I didn't ask for him to go away, but I also recognize that I have enough room in my heart to love you with my entire heart also and crush this life. So what are your thoughts on that? Like her situation?
I mean, I've made the joke with you, and it's probably inappropriate, where you wished your first husband would have never died, and I wish my first wife would.
Okay, that's not appropriate.
It's terrible, but I think in this type of situation, you have to recognize that those feelings may actually never go away.
Yeah.
And there's nothing actually wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right. And it's, I watch you, kind of well up and, as you think about your life with that man, and, it happens probably most predominantly as you're looking at your children,
mm-hmm.
who you probably see, evidence of that human being in all the time. And that's never going away.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't mean that we as two people and we as a couple can't, pick our time and be that thing that each of us needs for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And, were there moments for me, as we were figuring this out where, I struggled with that? Sure. I'm not going to suggest that there weren't. But I also kind of had to put it in the box of, this is still, the first part of your life, and now this is the rest of our lives. Right. Yeah. And that took some work, to get there. But I think taking that mindset is super important.
I agree. It takes two mature human beings that are confident, like you're confident in yourself and I'm confident in myself, but we also talked through it, because there are also, like, if you get divorced, you're taking most of those pictures and putting them, away. Like, you're not
in this closet right here.
Yeah.
And I don't want to open it if I don't have to.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could throw it out.
Right.
You know?
But for the widow, like, I don't want to put all of those pictures in a box. Like, they mean a whole lot to me. Yeah. And I want for my kids to, like, see this man that didn't on purpose leave them. And so I think for someone else coming into, I'm like getting all emotional, which is why I was so nervous for this podcast. For someone else to come into this situation, like this man in this relationship that broke up with the widow because he said, you are just not over your husband. Like, you're not understanding. My take on it is that you're not understanding the grief process, because maybe you're divorced and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't be with that person anymore. I don't care about that person. But I can only use myself as an example. Like, I have room in my heart for all of the things, and I'm not delusional. I don't think that Jason's walking through the door tomorrow. And, like, the funniest part about it is that there are things that you and I do that I'm like, oh my gosh, like, he would think this is hilarious. Like, oh my gosh, like, he would love it. And you and I have joked, like, when we get into heaven, how's that going to work? Like, what are we what are we all doing when we get to heaven?
Rock, paper, scissors, right? I'm going,
Like,
going,
but it is, I just think it's a really tender subject, and we have definitely done a lot of work in getting there, because now, in today's day and age, you enter social media and there were a lot of people in your life saying, oh my gosh, she must not love you because you're not on her Facebook feed 24/7, or you're not, oh my gosh, she posted a picture with just her kids and you're not in it. And I think those things were hurtful to you at the beginning.
You almost have to make this conscious decision and really put all of this into perspective, right? Like, and I'm just going to say it this way because I don't know another way. Like, he's not here.
Right.
Right.
Like, He dead. He gone.
Passed away. He's gone.
Yes.
He's not coming through the door. That doesn't take away the 15, 18, 20 years that the two of you spent together.
Right.
It doesn't erase the three beautiful boys that you had together. And as much as I want this to be our time, I also want to respect that memory.
Yeah.
And I know you have that need, and whether your boys know it or not, they need to have that need.
Yeah.
And like, I want to be a father figure to them, just like I am, the father figure to my two sons. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. We have 5 teenage boys together. But I also never want to try and replace their dad, right? Like, that's not my place to do that.
Yeah.
And I've come to learn, and I'm eternally thankful that all of this is better by recognizing that, right?
Yeah.
You know this about me, and you make fun of me for it, which is kind of not cool of you. But like, my favorite times, as you know, is when all 7 of us are together.
Yeah.
And those times get even better when it's the 7 of us plus significant others.
Yeah.
And I can only envision that it's going to get even more kind of heartfelt and rewarding for me as it's the 7 of us plus significant others plus grandchildren.
Yeah.
And the absolute chaos that is going to ensue.
I mean, I love your strategic thinking. Your strong point is seeing the future and seeing all of the things. Like, you've got it placed in your mind. And even with the story that you just shared, you're 10 years out on your story, which is, if we come back to that very first date, you saw that in, the couple of hours that we spent together. And I went home and was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing? Like, yes, this is amazing. Like, you're great. Do I really want to do this? Do I not want to do this? And then I have 99 voices in my head asking what I'm going to do. But it does just make it better. I learned a term the other day. It's called co-regulation. And it's when 2 people support one another to manage their emotions better. One partner can use their voice, their breath, their words to anchor feelings of safety. And that phrase, like, when I learned that, it brought me back to the very first time that we talked on the phone, the very first time that on our very first date, when I called to say, I don't really know, Neil. Like, I'm not really sure about you. Like, I don't think I'm showing up. But I think it was that, like, it was just the calmness in your voice, the way that you handled that situation. And I love that we're better together for it, right?
I think that's 100% true.
Yes.
I've learned through this whole process with you that I can let my emotions get the better of me. I can let my frustrations get the better of me. I can give in to those moments, those demons, call them what you will. And life isn't better. Yeah. But I've found also, and you've been a great catalyst, and you did this for me at dinner, I think last night, where taking it down, making sure we're focusing on all of this in that loving, supportive, understanding, compassionate way, life is 1,000% better.
1,000% better. And we each need the emotional space. Back to the statement of the woman who had someone break up with her because she wasn't over her husband when he missed the point. Like, you miss the opportunity to grow closer to someone or to let someone have the opportunity to manage those emotions, those feelings. We need to verbalize them. And so as we move forward, like, let's unpack the process of building a life together and how that needed to start with building a home together, right? Like that was a fun time.
Oh, wow.
Let me set the stage here, right? So we get engaged. I don't even know, like a year, 2 years ago. Yeah. 2 years ago. And this is also like fun facts. Cause Neil, what is the date and the minute that we got engaged?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it was February 9th of 2021.
And I'm like, I don't know. It was cold. Like,
I'm the chick in this relationship for sure.
But I love you so much for it. Okay. So if we unpack the process, so we get engaged, we're like, okay, we're doing this. We've overcome kind of the hurdles of dating. We're both committed. We both agree that this is what we're doing. And I mean, I'll say it this way, but I don't really mean this, but you basically had to rip me out of my other house, right? To move into a house and create a life together. And I think if I look back at it, I said yes. And I was like, yes, that sounds great. Oh, I'm going to dream big, baby. Let's dream big. Like, let's go. And then the reality of what needed to happen in order for me to pack up the house that Jason and I bought. He lived there for 2 years. I lived there for 12. Move out of that house. Like, it was not smooth sailing.
There were two factors that I frankly wasn't ready for, or I didn't give enough consideration to. One, I've moved so many times, throughout my adult life, and I just look at it as picking up stuff and moving stuff and getting rid of stuff and getting new stuff, and you just get to a level of comfort and you're good.
That's exactly how I processed it.
Not one bit. You actually had to grieve all over again.
Yeah.
And I didn't factor that into the master plan, right. And I didn't see that, as part of our strategy.
I mean, just to be clear, I didn't either. Like, I didn't, until we were in it up to our eyeballs. I wanted to say like knee deep, and it wasn't even knee deep. We were literally into my emotions up to my eyeballs. And I didn't have the space, the time, or the thought that it was going to be as hard as it was.
Yeah. I mean, the whole process of the house thing was not easy for multiple factors, but that was an unexpected piece. The second thing is just inherently who you are as like an engineering minded person, which is everything's got its place. And if it doesn't have its place yet, no one's happy.
Right.
We figure out where the place is for the thing until we can like relax and enjoy the surroundings.
And then I need to get a label on it. There needs to be a label. Like, it goes here and here's the label. That's where it goes.
The level of closet organization that lives inside of you is something to behold. It is amazing. So it was that small piece, but it was the grieving all over again. That was a challenge. It was tough, but we embraced that part of it and worked through it, and here we are.
it was ugly. So one thing that I definitely did not recognize was that I was going to have to grieve the loss of a life, essentially, all over again. So I really felt like after we said yes, we bought a house together. We were like, yes, we're going to buy this house. We're going to, with these 7 boys and the grandkids and the story you just told 5 minutes ago about, 10 years from now. Yes, I want that life. I want that life. Let's go. And then we list my house. It sells. Now I have to sort through the storage area that I'm not a hoarder by any stretch, but I had bins of grief that I had a place for and just kind of let it sit there. And in my mind, I always thought, well, I'll get to that later. Well, I'll get to that.
Stuff it away, right? Stuff it away.
I'll stuff it. And I don't even remember. I think it's in episode 11 about stuffing my feelings, but grief was just something that I didn't work through properly. I did it piece by piece because I didn't have the bandwidth to just and I think that's kind of normal. But then when I had to move those things and you were like, oh my gosh, what is this box? What is this box? What are we doing? What are we doing? I was like, oh my goodness, I can't. And I literally cried all the time. And I was like, I can't handle it.
Well, I had no idea what all was in that room.
Right.
No idea. And then trying to figure out how to navigate it.
Yeah.
And what's the appropriate level of push you versus let you be and advance the process, but yet give you space.
Yeah.
That was like a PhD in Dana Lewis turned out that window.
But in working through that grief, I remember the weeks leading up to selling the house and then the weeks of moving things, because we only moved, across town. So it's we a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit whatever. In doing that each time, I felt like just a little piece of my heart was chipping off little by little. And it wasn't about things. It was just I don't even know what words to put around that. But when it got to be the final walkthrough and it was okay, Saturday, Sunday, everything has to be out by Sunday at 5. It needs to be clean. It needs to be whatever. And you were like, oh, okay, well, good luck. I've got my kids that weekend. So I'll see you on Monday. And I was like, and I mean, I don't mean that rudely. You weren't peace out, I'm done. But you didn't. Neither one of us really thought about the emotion that I would have in those 2 days of walking around an empty house. And I sat in there and I sobbed.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts in that moment?
I mean, hindsight being 2020, I really wish I was there. You make choices, thinking one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it was inconsiderate, but you didn't
know.
I didn't see it coming that it was going to play such an emotional toll on you.
Yeah.
And I wish I'd been there for you in that moment. And I mean, it's not like I was, outrageously far away, but it was still you being in that environment alone, going through it alone.
Yeah.
I wish I'd been there for you differently. I do.
Oh, right. And I mean, I do too, but I also the point of my conversation is more managing that grief in that moment. I truly felt like that 2 weeks of my life, which I guess was a month of my life, I felt like it aged me 10 years. I was oh my gosh, the stress, the crying, the anxiety, all of the hype around that. And I want to come back to this term co-regulation, because I think for us, when I get amped up in my grief to that level, it is very soothing for me when you just literally, you can bear hug me and you can calm me and say I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I love you. And then the panic, because I got panicked. I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, I'm leaving a house that I can, afford. Things are fine. I'm going to use the 4-letter F word. Like, things are my 4-letter F word. Like, things are fine. I want to grow, build this life and make them better. But each one of those things is a step, and it's work. It's a lot of work to grow together, to take that next step. And I had, Jason and I dated for 7 years. We were married for 15. So for nearly 23 years of my life, I had that was my stability. I was like, this is what I know. And then 8 years forward by myself, I'm like, okay, now I have figured out how to navigate life on my own. I'm still stable, and I'm still 4-letter F word fine. But trusting you and taking this big leap to leave everything, it just was scary.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
Yes. And
it's not easy. It's very hard.
No. And I just appreciate that when you recognize that, right? This is what it takes. 2 people that can work together. You recognize that, and you're like, take a deep breath, Dana. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. I love you. I love you forever. And, a year and a half later, here we are podcasting about how funny that moment was.
I don't know if I'd ever call it funny, but yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in it, and I'm glad we're talking about it, because I think if anybody, who's in your listener community can benefit just from what we've gone through and take something away from it. I mean, I think that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, fast forward to today, I am so thankful for you. I love you with my whole heart. And I'm thankful that you didn't give up on me when my defense mechanism was go away, go away, go away. I'm stable. I'm good. I'm in a bubble. Don't touch the bubble. And you were like, I'm going to poke the bubble just a little bit at a time.
I mean, there were days I'm like, am I a glutton for punishment? Do I just enjoy punishment? I think I may.
No, because you have to bring it back to your vision. You had the vision. You knew what it could be. And I did too. I could see it. It just was scary. So I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for not giving up on me. And I'm thankful for all of the lessons we've learned along the way. For the man listening, what advice do you have for him who is willing to jump into the dating pool with a woman who has experienced this level of loss?
I mean, the first word that comes to mind is patience.
Yeah.
And, you've got to have a pretty high degree of patience. And the second word that comes to mind is honestly empathy, right? I
like that.
You've got to empathize with the situation, accept it for what it is, and then believe, that there's a path for you and that person forward.
Yeah.
Right. None of us get to go back in time. Fortunately, it's just not what you get to do. And the Bible tells us this, we should live it this way every day, but it's always taking that step forward. And there's a path, and there's a ton of happiness that's there. I am super glad I didn't give up.
Mm-hmm. That makes 2 of us.
I didn't break up with you. Moments where I thought about it. And I'm super glad for everything that we have together. Right. I'm glad that I get to wake up and, you're the first face I get to see in the morning. I'm thrilled to death that, instead of being the dad of 2 boys, the father of 5 boys.
Mm-hmm.
I love relationship that, the five of them have built together.
Mm-hmm.
Comfort level my children have, developed, coming and spending time, in a home where they're not here all the time, but the level of comfort that they
have
built, being here.
Yeah.
And just for all those moments, right?
Yeah.
When we can all be together, I think this is the life that I really, really saw. Right.
I think one of the things that you've said without saying is that when you have the empathy, so if there's the gentleman that's listening that's like, do I dare date this widow who has experienced such loss? It's empathy, but it's also not seeing it as competition. Like, you never embraced this relationship with me like you were in a competition with Jason. You embraced it like, how do I navigate this? For the years that we have been together, you have asked a lot of really good questions about, why are you crying right now? What is it in this moment that's making you cry? What is it in this moment that's making you feel? And giving space to me, the widow, to be able to talk about it. And genuinely, you care. You're like, tell me about that. Tell me about whatever, but making it not a competition. And when we started this home that we now live in together, it's all of the pictures. It's like, I went on a mission to say, like, Neil, I need a picture of you and a child at, between ages 3 and 5, because I had pictures that I wanted to hang on the walls of my kids. And I wanted to have the gallery of all of the things. There's a number of pictures of me with my boys, but there's also like a couple pictures of Jason with the boys. And I wanted to be able to have a space for that, but for everyone that's in this house. And I think that is just so special and so important to recognize that it's not a competition.
That's interesting to hear you say that. I don't think there's been a moment in this where I looked at it as a competition.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever felt threatened by those memories that you have and that love that you have.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt threatened by that.
Yeah. And I think that is just really important. So going back to the gentleman that broke up with my friend, like, he didn't feel confident or comfortable in that. Like, there has to be something that goes off in your brain to say, I'm not important enough, so I'm out. And I think just framing it a little bit differently, to lean in, to ask questions. And you and I have just had so many beautiful conversations around it, which has allowed us to be where we are today.
I mean, I think of, some people in our friend group, and you have, a number of widows who have, since, kind of had new relationships. And I think about chatting even with those guys. And I think all of us just kind of look at it like, this is now.
Yeah.
That was then. I mean, if Jason were to walk back in the door today, would you pick me or him? I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to like fight over you.
We could have one of those relationships where instead of the guy having multiple wives, it's me having multiple husbands.
That was weird. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I know. But no, like I've just never felt threatened by it.
Yeah.
Like this is a long life. You have a lot go on, throughout your life. I mean, my ex is still alive. She's still nagging at me, or, behind the corner. You have to deal with that. I actually think my situation's better.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with memories.
Right.
And, kind
right.
of
this is like a whole nother podcast. Like, let's talk about dating.
That next. And then, I've still got a human being that's in the equation.
You still have a human being that's like text hating you, where I just have memories. So
it
is different. And I think just to kind of like finalize. Like, it's all about how you frame it and having empathy. I think having empathy in a relationship is a two-way street. It's not only having empathy for the widow, it's having empathy. I have the utmost empathy for the situation that you're in, because you're at a loss in a lot of situations where you're in the middle of an ex and kids and whatever. So it's empathy. It's, in my opinion, I don't see myself as competition with your kids or with your ex, or not being competitive, but saying, how can I embrace this and be a solution seeker? If this is the solution that I want, how can I embrace this? Not with a list of problems, but a list of potential solutions, and then talk through them. So I am so grateful that you came on this episode today. Thank you for sharing your heart with me and with each and every listener. I love you, Boo.
I love you too. Thank you.